Hey, lovelies. This is the view from where I'm staying on the Oregon coast. It's kind of a tremendous gray, stormy day. This is also part of my view. Wonder dog Sylvie asleep by my side. I'm sure Sylvie misses her pack mate Homer, but she enjoys the beach. Okay, let's talk about some decks. Hey, lovelies. So I, have a hankering to do one of those big compendium videos where I talk about all of my favorites from 2018, all of my deck favorites, or perhaps where I even narrow it down and say top 5 decks or something like that. And I have a whole bunch of ideas for other videos, but nothing like striking while the iron's hot. And I want to talk to you today simply about 2 decks that have been fascinating to me of late, and they're very, very different decks in ways that I hope will be interesting to you. First of all, these decks are different in that one of them is very inexpensive, very accessible. You can get it into your hot little tarot hands, the day after tomorrow through Amazon Prime, or get it through the Book Depository or Wordery, or whatever your purveyor of instant tarot gratification is, and you can get it for like under $15 US. The other deck appeals to a different kind of tarot purchasing activity, and that's that sort of collector's mentality of the search for a deck that you've been dreaming about, you've been hankering for. And I don't here mean like a soul deck, but a deck that's out of print, that's rare, that's hard to find, or hard to find at a price that you can afford. Now, one of the reasons I like to share out of print decks with you, even though I know it can be frustrating and it's a little bit maybe controversial to do deck reveals about decks, or deck unboxings about decks that are not in print, precisely because it's frustrating, but I want to expand, I think, our tarot vocabulary, and I want to bring back memory of decks that may not even be that old. This deck, I think, came out in 2000. I'm trying to remember when it came out. I don't know. I'll have to put that in the comments below. The second deck is a deck that is just really hard to find. It isn't even that old a deck, but it's hard to find. It's hard to find at a reasonable price. So 2 different decks. The style of art is really different, and the accessibility and kind of purchasing experience of the 2 decks is also really different. The first deck. This is a deck that just came out a few months ago, and for some reason has been priced really low, and I'm not sure why that is, particularly because the production values are very nice. This is Diana McMahon Collis's Tattoo Tarot, Ink and Intuition. This is a deck that has a sort of tattoo-inflected set of images in that very sort of modern American kind of classic tattoo style. I love the artwork. The art is done by a UK illustrator who goes by the handle MEGAMUNDEN. I don't know anything about them. Diane McMahon Collis is herself someone who's been in the tarot world for a long time. She's the co-founder, I think, of the Tarot Association of the British Isles, has written a lot of reviews, and her little white book or description for these cards, or her discussion of these cards, is very succinct, very smart. I don't know what the collaborative process is that she went with MEGAMUNDEN on creating the cards, or even exactly why she chose to do this deck, or where if it came from. I don't know the origin of the deck, and because I don't have published by Laurence King Publishing Limited. I don't know anything about that publisher, Laurence King. It's a UK publisher based in London. One of the things that I think it's in the little white book that I read this. One of the things that Collis says is she makes a contrast between our relationship to the cards, which aren't bespeaking a kind of destiny, as she views it, but instead about the development of our intuition so that we can have more free will, more choice, more self-determination, because we're plugging in more deeply to our own source of knowing, our own power, our own connection with the universe, yada, yada. All of that stuff that makes life so rich and vital and vibrant, versus the way in which ink in tattoos goes into your skin and is there for life. So she's saying, the imagery of these cards is not imprinting on us a destiny that we're going to live out in our skin. Instead, it's an invitation to our own intuition. Now, for me, as someone who loves tattoos, getting tattoos, I love looking at tattoos. What I'll say is, the wonderful thing about tattoos is that we live with them. They grow with us and we grow with them. And so there's a way in which the ink of a tattoo may get under our skin, but it changes and evolves. Even if it's this permanent coloring, it changes and it evolves as we grow, as we live. So all of my tattoos, have their meanings have changed, and their meanings to me have changed over the years that I've had them. And some of them I've covered up with other tattoos. So, so they literally do change because I incorporate them into a new design. Okay, let me share the deck. Now, this is quite a large deck. Not too big, but I can shuffle it. If I break it in half and then in half again, I can shuffle like each quarter of the deck against the other quarter. Very nicely, I can do a riffle shuffle. The cardstock for the price point is amazing. It's buttery soft. It has that kind of matte, creamy feel that we have come to associate with self-published decks, I think. The sort of thickness and smoothness that made The Wild Unknown such a popular deck when it came out for its cardstock, if not for its imagery. That too, of course. Now, maybe why the price point is so good on this is because the color palette is limited. The back is just this one color red. Some people have criticized that. For me, it's part of the tattoo aesthetic that the palette is really limited. And it's a tattoo aesthetic that takes us back to the early days of the Marseille tarot and the 18th century sort of woodblock tradition, where you have maybe 3 or 4 colors being printed on a tarot card. So there's something about the way the palette is limited with this deck that's reminiscent not just of tattoos, but also of the Marseille. As you can see, the cards, I love the court cards in this deck. The cards are really limited, just like a Marseille tarot deck, are really limited to, this sort of taupe, sort of variations of this sort of goldy taupe. Black, of course, is really strong outline. Again, something that links tattoo art with Marseille art, that really strong outlining. Blues and reds. Very limited palette. Oh, and then this green. And yet used incredibly evocatively. Oops, sorry. Used incredibly evocatively. So this deck is this kind of melding of the modern and the antique. You can see it in the way that it brings together a Marseille style with Rider-Waite-Smith sensibility. So we have the magician. It's not called, the bateleur or whatever. And yet, like a Marseille deck, we have the table here with the cup and balls, those sort of the juggler's art from Trump #1 in the Marseille style. But then we have a Rider-Waite-Smith evocation of the 4, where's the sword? Oh, there it is, of the 4 suits, right? So this blending of Waite-Smith and Marseille, just like we have a blending of the aesthetic of the woodblock with tattoo art. Just beautiful and just, so cleanly executed. Now, if you look at the white book, little white book meanings for the cards, the meanings are going to reflect a Waite-Smith interpretation. So the Five of Wands, what Collis will say is this is a card that's all about competition and rivalry and struggle. And in fact, you know, we sort of get that sense here of the way that the wands are kind of crossing each other. That's sort of classic Marseille, but really twisted and turned in such a way that it's evoking that competitive rivalry sort of imagery from the Waite-Smith. Queen of Wands in all her beautiful feistiness. High Priestess. So, you know, again, kind of a melding of Marseille, sort of a more Marseille kind of imagery with Waite-Smith sensibility. Queen of Coins, evocation of the diamond from the French suit symbols. Knave of Cups, so the whatchamacallit, the pages are called knaves here. Three of Swords. And so, you know, with this spider and this web, we have this kind of sense of deceit and betrayal from the Three of Swords in a Waite-Smith deck, but it's, you know, these are clearly the curved swords and the ordering of the disposition of the elements that we would see in the Marseille. Hierophant, so it's not the Pope, but the imagery here is of the Pope. You see what I mean? It's this combination. Oops. This combination. Look at that. The sort of the balance of the Two of Pentacles, right? Called coins in this deck, because again, it's Marseille style, but it's Rider-Waite-Smith inflected. Anyway, I just really think this deck is well made, well executed. I've gotten some really powerful readings from it. I'm not going to go through a full deck flip through. Notice that we have 8 for justice and then 11 for strength, that Marseille ordering. But utterly modern sensibility. Look at this hipster with his tattoo and his wonderful precision, raised hair. You gotta love it. 6 of Coins, so 6 of Pentacles, an image of giving and receiving. Okay. The deck is called Tattoo Tarot, Ink and Intuition, and it is incredibly easy to get a hold of, beautifully constructed. Oh, and can I just say white? White is the new black, or actually off-white. So, you know, so many of us have edged our decks, many of our decks in black and other colors. This deck reminds us of the power of off-white, the beautiful blank slate, blank canvas. I love the edges of this deck. It's so silly to say, but I'm very, very happy with this deck. Okay, Tattoo Tarot, Ink and Intuition. Give my hair a little finger fluff here to kind of, I'm a little droopy today. Yeah, and now, I want to talk about the Tarot of Reflections. This is a Los Scarabeo deck, and of course I don't remember when it came out, and my copy doesn't say when, but it is out of print, and if you try to find it on eBay, and you can, it costs, you know, scores and scores, even hundreds of dollars. It's one of those out-of-print Los Scarabeo decks that for some reason is really collectible and really expensive, and I have wanted it forever. I wanted it forever in part. Here's the box of the deck I ended up getting. I've wanted it forever in part because I'm obsessed with mirrors and reflection. That's something to talk about in another video, and I'm obsessed with the idea that the cards, this mandala of the tarot of the 78 cards, are a mirror that reflects our lives. And I'm obsessed with the ways in which each individual card not only reflects our life or the life of our querent, but also each individual card has the potential to have a shadow reading and a light reading. So each card carries with it its own reflection, and we express that, of course, when we if we read with reversals, which I do. What does it mean for the card to be upside down? What does it mean to be right side up? And then a card like the Four of Pentacles, which has a very dark meaning of miserliness and repression, withholding, restraint. In the Waite-Smith, in like the Crowley Tarot, the Crowley-Harris Tarot, the Thoth or Thoth Tarot, that's a card that means power, right? It's a card that has a very positive connotation because, in fact, the stability of the four can go light and can go dark. So I love the way in which the tarot is all about reflections, and I love the artwork of this deck. Super expensive. So when I saw that there was a Spanish language version on eBay that nobody was looking at, I nabbed it. Because what I knew was that Los Scarabeo decks, to call something a Spanish edition is crazy, because all of the Los Scarabeo decks have, the whatever, 6 or more European languages on them. So all of them are, multilingual decks. Spanish deck just means that the box is in Spanish, which bothers me not one whit. So I got this deck for, I don't know, maybe 30 bucks. Oh my God, it's beautiful. The palette is just gorgeous. The idea behind this deck, now mine didn't come with a little white book, and since I don't read Spanish very well, I kind of fake it. The little white book wouldn't have helped me much. But as I understand it, the idea behind this deck is that each card carries with it its own shadow reading. Each card has in it its reflection. The majors are particularly beautiful. So let me just go through them. Look at that Empress. I love the High Priestess too. And some of the reflections, so we can see a kind of fieriness and a kind of calm in the Emperor. What are the shadow worlds being contained? How does each of these cards, each of their meanings, carry with them an underworld, an undercurrent? What's the shadow side of justice? It's not a deck like, I don't have this deck, so I've just seen it online, but the tarot, is it called Tarot of Revelations? I'll put some links to that, where, it's meant to be seen both right side up and upside down. These are cards that clearly have a right side. They don't make much sense reverse. It's not like there's a hidden picture when you tilt it upside down, but they're cards that are all of them thematizing, making us think about the shadow, the underside, the underpinning. So like, in the sacrifice of the Hanged Man, we see here in his reflection sort of this meditating figure, this doubled meditating figure. And here in Death, we see a kind of reflection of a baby. Temperance, the Devil. The Moon, this really emphasizes the light and dark, the two faces of the moon. I love the pregnancy of the world and her inversion. Now the minors bring forward the Waite-Smith scenes. And some of them, I mean, this one I'm not so thrilled about, you know, the 4 of pentacles or coins, right? Some of them are more cartoony looking than others. But again, the palette, the art, and I haven't even, these are still in order because I haven't really begun to work with them yet. Sorry, my light is fading. So these aren't, my light is fading, look at that. Sylvia is getting a little restless. There's one, I think just one video walkthrough of this deck. Interestingly, it's also in Spanish. There's something just sort of ethereal and dreamlike. Some of these also are, you have to kind of work to see what the reflected image is, and I'm not even sure it's so important in the end. I like how the wands are depicted. It's sort of a mishmash of styles. Like I'm not sure how he lives in the same universe as him. So there's, a fair amount to criticize in this deck, I suppose, if you want to go there. But again, I don't know. It just evokes this world for me. Look at this. For some reason, I'm really drawn to the Ace of Cups these days. I love the pregnancy of this 3 of Cups, It's not the typical 3 graces together. The sense of the 4 in repose and his own dreaming. This 5 of Cups. Really interesting to have the Chariot. The 6 with, I really love the 7. Turning our backs. I can't wait to work with this deck. Now in my world, I always get a bag for each of the decks that I know I really want to work with, and I haven't gotten my bag yet for this deck, so I haven't started to work with it. I was just so happy. It came, I think I got it from somewhere, I think it came from Italy, so it took forever to get here. Really, this deck is the real opposite. The Tattoo Tarot Intuition. I found out about that deck. It was in my hands, 3 days later. This deck I've been coveting for 3 years. So hopefully you will covet it too. That's my goal. To give you all, another deck that might not have been in your repertoire. 2006, yeah. To give you another deck to lust after. These are the backs, by the way. They're not so extraordinarily interesting, but they're simple enough, clean green backs with the image from the moon. Totally reversible, which I guess is appropriate for a deck that's about reflection. Okay, that's all I've got. Two of my favorite obsessions this year. Tarot of Reflections and the Tattoo Tarot Intuition. Okay, y'all. Take care. Much love. Bye.